With the mission to keep as many men on as many guns for as long as possible, we called him Doc. Welcome to Combat Vet Vision. And now your host, Aaron Chief Seabird.
Way like the sun bidding goodbyes. Hey, welcome to Combat Vet Vision. This is a place where combat vets get to come tell their stories. It's a place where I get to unload a lot of different things, thought processes, things that as a combat veteran, how we're transitioning out of the service, how we're getting involved in our lives, how we're pushing for different directions and different things. And today I got Jason Brooks on deck. We are at Warrior Built Studios, so it's really kind of cool to have the opportunity to kind of share some time and effort here. Quick shout out to Baja Designs for coming down here the other day and doing a really cool fundraiser during the 4th of July weekend and giving us a donation. But on top of that, they're always there and ready to support Warrior Built in a lot of different ways. So way cool for that. But Jason Brooks is on deck, good buddy of mine. We served in 3-5 together prior to combat. And when the war started, we went into war together and pushed. He was a line company corpsman and did some incredible things. And he is now doing some other incredible things. I've had him on the show before with his other company, and we'll talk about that and how he was going through some processes with that in Vitae, doing some incredible things with mapping out the body and the different things within the DNA and trying to fix a lot of problems with that. But hey, Jason, welcome to the show, brother. Appreciate you.
Yeah, no, it's great, man. Thanks for bringing me back. Appreciate it.
Upstairs in the lounge, here at Warrior Built Studios. So it's great to have you on deck with me personally here and on the screen. So let's talk.
See you stateside, man.
Yeah, it's good to be here. Hey, let's talk a little bit about your military career. Let's get on involved in that, and then kind of take us through some of the processes that's happened to you over this last year. Obviously, you've had a lot of big ones, including a baby that's 7 weeks old, right?
Yep. Little baby Hudson.
So go ahead. Yeah, baby Hudson on deck
live
in the studio, hanging out with us today. Exactly. Go ahead, brother. Talk about it.
Yeah. So, Chief and I actually served back in the early 2000s. We went to Iraq together with 3rd Battalion, 5th Marines. I was a senior corpsman with a weapons company at the time. And we just had like an amazing team. We did the whole push to Baghdad to crit, settled in Diwania for a little bit, set up some security measures. We had our guys actually at that time securing one of the hospitals there in Diwania, and basically came back with 2 legs and 2 arms. And I was like, holy shit, man, maybe I should think about another career change. Like, I don't know if this military thing's gonna last for me. But yeah, like I was, the whole reason why I went in the first place was actually to go to med school, and I didn't have money for med school. And so I kind of used and leveraged the military to kind of, one, get me aligned with my goals and create some discipline and so forth, and really set me on a really good path.
No, that's good stuff too, man. And that's funny because we kept a pretty tight niche, and we talk about the 3-5 corpsman. There's about 15 of us that stay really linked up together through text messaging and whatnot. And actually, one of the guys actually did go through med school, and he's actually a doctor in his residency up in the New York area. And it's cool to see that, but you took a different path, man. You decided to go a different route, whatever circumstances like hit us up. As much as we're on one path, we can end up on another one that's just as cool and valuable. Talk about that path for a little bit. And now you're shifting gears even more. I think it's really going to be cool. I definitely am looking forward to you to talk about this nonprofit that you're putting together, and we'll get into that too.
Yeah.
Talk about your transition and what you decided to do.
Yeah, so it was quite the transition because, when we came back from Iraq, I actually had all the paperwork, and I had my officers that had letters for me ready to go to USIS and continue that journey. And, I kind of like stepped back and this is how I always kind of like evaluate life a little bit and goals and your career and stuff, is that you always kind of know your zenith, right? Like, you know exactly kind of where you want to go, but you're always off path a little bit, right? You're a little to the right, a little to the left. And like the further you go down your career, it's like it gets closer, 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 closer. And then you figure out exactly where you want to be. And it was a journey. So, you know, I was like, came back and I was like, all right, what do I like outside of healthcare, medicine, you know, anatomy and physiology? What am I good at? What comes naturally? And one of those things was it was business. I would say like half my family, they're entrepreneurs, the other half are doctors, right? So I was like, okay, let me try out this business stuff. And what I ended up doing at that time, this was back 2003, 2004. I was going to school full time, trying to finish my undergrad and at Cal State Fullerton, and I got into the mortgage industry because I decided to stay in California. I'm originally from New York. So like when you get out, you know, you could actually go back and stay a resident of the state that you're in, or if you get out in whatever state you're in, you could become an automatic resident, which kind of helped with the tuition and the fees and so forth in college. So yeah, ended up getting in the mortgage industry, Southern California. Business was booming at the time. Everybody knows what happened with that market. 2007, 2008, everything crashed. Started realizing that it wasn't a really ethical business. And I had to get out. So I was like, what am I going to do? And started looking into ways to kind of bring healthcare medicine in with business. And then I started interviewing basically for pharmaceutical and medical device companies. So that was the path. And got into medical device sales with Johnson & Johnson, did that for 5 years. Loved it. I was in surgery every day, you know, maybe 3 to 4 different surgeries, all different types of specialties, you know, able to watch like a hemicolectomy, watch, you know, an actual lobectomy, watch an actual cabbage. If anybody knows what that procedure is, it's actually an open heart surgery where they completely put the body on a machine that circulates your blood as they actually cut open your heart and replace the aortic valve or whatever it might be. So yeah, that was really cool stuff. And fast forward, I ended up, you know, realizing with the medical device things, you know, it was very reactive. It's like people end up getting cancer and then you have to remove the cancer. And I was like, okay, that's not really for me. Like, I want to get in front of this. Like, what can we do today to actually stop this? Like, you know, everyone knows diet, everyone knows family history and stuff, but everything really comes down to our genetics. It's really, you know, molecular genetics is kind of the foundation of the body. So I started working for a semi-startup genetic company out of Irvine called Combi Matrix. We brought that company profitability. We sold it for 25, around, I think it was 25 million or 24 M to a company called Invitae, which was a semi-startup. I was, you know, maybe like employee somewhere between 50 to 100. Started in 2017. From 2017 to 2022, we took that company from, you know, maybe 100 employees to 3,000 employees worldwide. And with that company, it was based out of San Francisco, and we focused on 2 things, oncology and reproductive health. So if you ever had a child and you get a genetic test done about, you know, what does mom carry, what does dad carry, and what's the risks to the child, those are the type of tests that we actually did. So yeah, that kind of brings me up to where I am today. But yeah, if you want to dig in, do you have any questions about that? What are your thoughts? It's been a journey, man. It's been crazy.
Yeah, it has. You know, and you ended up stepping away from this because why?
Yeah, so great question. So, you know, in Vitae, we were doing really, really good. I mean, we brought that company at the peak. We were evaluated, I think, at $4.2 billion, which was massive. Our stock, you know, we're a public company. When I started the company, we were at like maybe $3 or $4 a share. It went up at the peak around $65, $67 a share. During that 5-year period, what ended up happening is we acquired about 12 different companies. Like if you look this up, like seriously, like 12 different companies into our company to get in front of everything. What that ended up doing is we bled a lot of money. We bled and bled and bled. The thing is we had a lot of like deep investors, right? Like we had Kathy Wood, you know, like if anyone knows who that is, I mean, she's massive. She's the one that backs like Tesla and everything else. But it got to the point that we're too deep into the red. And what ended up happening, to answer your question, Chief, is that last summer, we had a massive layoff. So we're around 3,100 employees worldwide. And that day, I think they let go of 1,200. And of the 1,200, they ended up letting my entire team let everybody go, including myself. So at that time, I was a regional sales director covering Southern California, Central California, Arizona, Nevada. And I had a team of 9 reps that covered all the hospitals within that area. So basically that happened, got laid off. And I was like, fuck, what am I going to do now? And not only that, we had a baby coming. So it was like, I was definitely against the wall. So had to make some moves, man. Had to make some moves. Great motivation.
Yeah,
Change.
And that is obviously there's a lot of change, having a baby, getting laid off, and you, I know, you've been on the string, setting up some really cool options. You've done some research, obviously looking at, how veteran housing operates, possibly getting into some of that, and you're still looking into that. But ultimately, you started this nonprofit that's getting ready to kick off, Operative.
Yeah.
And we're gonna talk about that. Let's do a PSA real quick. The VA's commercial. Let's let those guys bring that PSA on. Brian, if you got that up, pull that up, brother.
This message is from the U.S. Department of Veterans Affairs. Veteran service organizations, often known as VSOs, offer many services for veterans, service members, dependents, and survivors. Whether it's holding job fairs, finding solutions to challenges such as homelessness, healthcare, or financial issues, or educating veterans on federal, state, county, and local benefits, VSOs are a great resource for veterans. VSOs also offer veterans a place to socialize with other veterans for peer support. Plus, for help filing a claim or appeal, you may want to work with an accredited lawyer, a claims agent, or a VSO. VA trusts these professionals because they're certified in VA claim and appeal processes. To learn more, go to va.gov and search for VSOs.
All right, it's good to be back. Hey, just so you know, this is brought to you by SitchRadio.com, ran by Brian Colburn, who manages and does my show. And on top of that, he also manages the Field Op. You might have saw that pop up. The Field Op is another cool podcast, and it was inspired by being on my podcast, doing some cool things. So there's some really cool things going on with that. Back to Jason. Hey, brother, go ahead and let's talk about your new exciting adventure. The business track that you're on, and then the nonprofit stuff. That, dude, is a really cool nonprofit idea, and I'm looking forward to being part of it.
Yeah. So going back to kind of being pushed against the wall and having a child, like, there's a lot of things that go through your mind, right? And so I could keep on going the same route, find another position in the biotech industry, a leadership position. I was interviewing for a good amount of them. The problem was, if anybody was following like the end of last year, like Q3, Q4, there were so many layoffs in the tech industry, so many layoffs in the biotech industry. So I was spinning wheels. Like, once you get up to a certain level of leadership, the amount of roles that are available is less, it's minimal. So I was like, what am I going to do? And so it's funny, called my mom and I was like, Mom, what do you think if I called Dad and asked if I could actually support the family business somehow? And so my dad actually has a tech company that's an IT cybersecurity company that he's built over the last 30 years. Gave him a call and said, hey, Dad, is there anything that I could do? And he's like, yeah, sure. I could have you monitor the servers. And he kind of like walked me through everything. So he's like, but what we'll do is I need you to start your own LLC, and then we'll just pay your LLC. And I was like, sweet, that's great, because then I could actually do all these tax write-offs, and I could, like, when it comes to expenses and so forth, office expenses and whatnot, it would help us out a lot. And so I started working with him, and that was the birth of our startup company. And so the company itself is called Innovo AI LLC, DBA as Innovo. Innovo just meaning disruption, innovation, and so forth. So there's 3 parts to this business. There is the cybersecurity SOC, which is like helping my parents or my dad's business. An SOC is a security operations center. So that's what's utilized for cybersecurity. The other part, believe it or not, actually got a call. I have a really good family friend that helped me out in high school, and she has a farm in the Hudson Valley, New York. That farm is 200 years old. She's the 7th generation farmer there with her twin sister. And they have 3 parts of their business, which is organic produce, CBD, and also cannabis, THC. And so the state of New York just legalized this recreational use as of, it was December of 2022. So she asked me to come on board to help them out with like business development, sales, marketing, website development, the whole 9. So the second part of the business is consulting for that company. And then the third part of the business is medical sales, like kind of marketing consulting. So that's the 3 parts of the Novo. And there's that. And we could go into a lot of different discussions about that because that started in April and we are now in August and things are on fire. Like I'm definitely busy. I got my hands on a lot of stuff. It's a lot of fun. I get to control my time. I get to spend time with my kid and my wife. I don't have to be on a plane, run into a hospital. I only get involved in things that I like. So if I think it's cool, then I'm going to fucking do it. And that's kind of like how we've been running it. And then in addition to that is the nonprofit. So that's what we're going to talk about. So the nonprofit, the idea came about because basically when I launched a startup, there's a bunch of different platforms that I'm paying for right now. And it gets really expensive. So what do you need to start up a company, right? You need QuickBooks. You need maybe Google Suites. You need Zoom, maybe Teams. You need all these different programs, and all these companies, like there's a good amount of them that don't have veteran like programs at all. And I was like, oh man, that's really interesting. And then I think where where everything kind of tipped was I wanted to get a membership to a platform called PitchBook. Now, PitchBook, if anyone knows what that is, basically it's extremely valuable where you could look up public and private companies. You could find out who's on the board, who's on the executive team. You could get basically their phone numbers or email addresses. You could look at who are the private or equity companies that actually invested into these companies. You could find out who was the actually individual that pulled the trigger to actually invest in that company, and you could contact them. You could dig into like angel investors. It's really, really valuable. But the thing is that for one user for that platform, it's $16,000 a year. Now, I don't know, Chief, do you got $16,000 to spend on a platform to help your business?
Negative. No, it's not. Yeah. It's an incredible thing to think about. Yeah.
Yeah, man. So like the thing is like, this is getting really expensive. So I teamed up with another friend that's an entrepreneur, and I said, hey, would you go in with me? And we'll go ahead and get a membership. And for 2 users, it's $18,000. We get 3 users, it's $27,000 a year. And I'm just thinking in my head, like, I'm a combat vet. Like, they should have some sort of program. And so anyway, talked to the guy, the sales rep that was helping me out. And I was like, do you guys have any veteran programs at all? Like maybe a discount or something where I could get this service trial for free for 30 days, something. And they're like, no, unfortunately, like we have nothing. And we're like, oh. And then I started thinking, I'm like, okay, there is definitely a problem here. And I think I know how to solve it. And so what I did is I was like, what I need you to do is contact your boss and tell him that I'll close on this deal today if he basically confirms and commits to a meeting where I could sit down and discuss with him about building out a veterans program for PitchBook. And so he called his boss, and his boss is like, yeah, sure, I'll commit to a meeting. Like we're not giving anything away, right? And he was like, no. So anyway, so got the meeting with that guy. And then I was like, there's a better way to do this. So there's a foundation out there that's called the Big Fish Foundation. And if anyone knows about the Big Fish Foundation, it's actually ran by Shantosh, or he goes by Tosh. He was with us in Iraq when we first ended up getting into, our first major firefight, where, RPGs were just flying across Route 1. We lost one of our docs that day. It was a terrible day, but he's got this amazing nonprofit foundation. And I was speaking to one of my Marines that is actually on the board, and he's like, with the nonprofit, the federal government, they require you to use 22% of all proceeds to, whatever the cause is. And 78% of that could be used for business expenses, salaries, insurance, whatever it takes, right? But the successful nonprofits don't use it 78%, right? They want to get that number as low as possible. They want to make everything super visible and whatnot. So I was like, how do I tie all this together? So I was like, all right, I'm going to actually start a nonprofit. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to raise funds, and those funds are actually going to be for veteran entrepreneurs to cover all these platforms. So if you're starting up a company and you don't have $16,000 for a pitch book, we're going to pay for it for you, right? If you don't have the funds to start up a Google Suite account, so you get an email address or maybe a GoDaddy account to create a website, we're going to cover that for you. So the organization is called Vets Operate. You could go online, www.vetsoperate.com, and you can pull up the account. Now, there's two things to the site. So there's an application process. Everybody that actually becomes a member, they're called operators. Because what do we do in the military? We execute, we adapt, overcome, and we operate to get that shit done, right? So that is the whole thought process behind operate. And then the second part is actually finding the investors, right? So that's what we're doing. We're going to find the money for you to start up your company. That easy.
Yeah, that's some good stuff. And, let's talk a little bit about some of the coaching that's going to be involved, hopefully. And, how do you make sure that someone's not just starting a business because they say they want to start a business, but maybe they don't have the plan laid out? How is that looked at, or how do you vet these guys out to ensure hopefully success for one?
Yeah. So there's like, I feel like there's a couple types of entrepreneurs, right? There are the ones that are kind of like the dreamers, or the people that have a great idea, but they're really bad at executing. And then you have those that are just like executors, but maybe they don't know how to put it together, right? So when somebody actually applies to become an operator, basically we field them out to figure out what type of entrepreneur they are. Do they have a startup? Do they not have a startup? Are they trying to start a company? What kind of resource do they need? So since this is a new kind of venture for us, we're currently building out the board, and we're currently building out the team to support all these operators. And so what I've been doing is actually reaching out to people that I know that are like subject matter experts, right? SMEs. And that team is going to actually help support these veterans get to where they need to go. Whether you're on the ground just with an idea, or maybe you have a startup that's been there for 3 years, but you're struggling and you need to like have somebody look at it from a different set of eyes to figure out, how can we turn this around? How do we pivot? What's causing this not to really take off? So yeah, those are going to be the resources that are going to be available for these guys and ladies, obviously.
Nice. And is this going to be for every veteran out there, or is it combat veteran, or how you what do you got going on with that part?
So we try to make things really simple. So it's just any veteran that's an entrepreneur wants to be an entrepreneur. That's it. So you could be a combat vet. You don't have to be a combat vet. All you need to do is be a veteran. We're going through a process right now. I'm sure a lot of people out there that are listening in have seen ID Me. And so ID Me, if you ever go onto a website and say, for example, like we love to snowboard, right? So if we get an Epic Pass or an Icon Pass for the year, it asks, you get a pretty big discount as a veteran, but it has to go through ID Me. That goes into a national database that's able to identify whether you're a veteran or not. So that's the first step. So we're going to actually tie in ID Me to the website. So when you go in to the bottom of the website, there's like become an operator, put in your information, it will actually pop up with ID Me. It will check you. And then as soon as it checks you, then we're kind of off to the races. There will be questions that you'll have to answer. And then once we have all that information, we'll be able to kind of guide you on kind of like where you need to go.
No, that's that's great stuff too, man. That's going to be an ID Me is really important because obviously it screens to ensure that a veteran's a veteran and whatnot. And what's this other project that you're working on in the housing piece that you're working on? Getting this ranch thing together too. So you got your hands in a lot of things. Obviously, your business, which is obviously something that you're already going through the process. You have a lot of knowledge to bring to the nonprofit org as far as like, hey, I kind of know these steps. I kind of know some of these things that you're going to need. But on top of that, you're also looking at this this possibility to even make it even better for veterans in the future. Talk about that project too.
Yeah, I mean, the real estate side of stuff, my wife has been in the real estate industry for quite some time in property management. And, like everyone understands that you really have to diversify like your portfolio assets, right? And real estate really should be a big part of that. And so initially, we were toying around with the idea that, okay, one, I wasn't aware that you could actually use a VA loan for a construction loan. So you could actually get a construction loan through the VA where they will actually pay for it will actually be one closing cost for the property and for basically the loan itself, which typically outside of the veteran community, there's two closing costs. So that really helps. The other thing is that when you're building, you don't have to just build a single family unit. You could actually build a duplex, a triplex, or a fourplex. Once you go over 4 units, then it turns into a commercial property. So if anyone's ever been out there and you see this community that has like townhouses and it's just like 2, 2, 2, 2, or you see like 4 and there's like grass and another 4 units and grass, but it's the same community. It's just that company getting around the commercial law so they could actually just get some like easier benefits, and it's kind of an easier process to go through. So the thought process is here is what we would like to do is actually help, eventually we have to do this once ourselves. So we're in the process of figuring this out. Once we do this ourselves, then we'll be able to kind of teach everyone how we did it. And our plan is to be able to build a fourplex once a year. And then if we do if we could do a fourplex every 2 years, and we do that over the next 15 years, like we're going to be sitting pretty well. And then my wife, like I said, she'll be taking over the property management side of the business, and because that's her wheelhouse, and she's been doing that over a decade. So there's that idea. And then eventually what we'd like to do too, we'll see how the nonprofit goes. But with the nonprofit, you could actually use those funds for property and real estate. So think about a church, right? A church actually builds a church, and the church doesn't pay property taxes, and they don't pay taxes on that asset. Very similar. I'm learning about the laws that are relevant to this concept, which we're trying to figure that part out. But if we could actually, say, for example, build a ranch in Montana or Wyoming or something like that for veterans, that our operators bring them on the ranch for like a 3-day program, have something in person, allow people to, really conjugate and build this community. It's obviously always better in person than just virtually. I think we're over the virtual stuff. Like, I don't know if anyone's over the pandemic, but I mean, I am definitely over that stuff. Like, I like to see people. Siebert, Chief, you're downstairs. I'd rather you be up here with me.
Yeah, and that's something I've never really hooked up is like the computer right next to each other. So that's why I did it this way. But eventually, yeah, I want to build that. I mean, I used to do it. We'd be side by side, 2 mics built into the but it wasn't visual. So so there's a little bit of technology that I got to learn to put that together. But Yeah, you're right, man. It's good to come together. I mean, technology still has a lot of cool features. You drove all the
Yeah.
way up here from LA today, so it was really cool. You're in Lake Elsinore, that drive and then hanging out today is really cool. Um, but you're right, man. It's good to have that thing. So, we got the Warrior Group on Tuesdays here through the PTSD Foundation of America, and all the guys there'll be a lot of guys and gals possibly here on Tuesday, and then there's going to be some in the computer system, because a lot of people have moved out of California, but they still want to be part of the group. They still want to be
Oh
part of
yeah.
something that's related. And but you're right, man. Getting to know, and I know you're traveling around, man. You've been traveling around. You get all these pictures with all the corpsman buddies of 3-5.
Try
War.
to.
I mean, we went to war 20 years ago, but you're still
Yeah.
like, I mean, you've met a lot of guys in the last month or 2 or 3, man. I mean, you could say you probably met up and physically seen like 5 of us or something like that, right around that.
Yeah.
It's
No.
pretty cool.
Yeah. It's kind of cool because we just had our 20-year anniversary of OIF1, and so my wife and Hudson, Hudson was like, I think maybe 3 weeks old, and we brought him down to Camp Pendleton, and we actually had a ceremony on that Sunday, and everybody actually climbed First Sergeant's Hill, came down, had some food, took a bunch of photos, and it was just really really cool. There was events going on that whole weekend, but what I thought was amazing was Carl E. Mundy, right? So Mundy was actually, leading our whole 3rd Battalion, 5th Marines up to Baghdad. Stellar guy, right? And so whenever we get together, Mundy tries to be there, right? Which is really cool. And if anyone knows, Carl E. Mundy, he became a 4-star general. And for someone to take, someone at that high of a level, like in their career, to take the time out for his men that served, is pretty incredible. So he, long story short, unfortunately, he wasn't able to make it that Sunday, but he provided all the food and drinks and all that stuff. But he left us something that was really cool. So he actually wrote a letter, and our gunnies actually sat up there and read the letter from Mundy, and it was pretty inspiring. And as soon as they read the letter, I went up there, of course, and I was like, how do I get a copy of that thing? Like, I would love to have a copy of that, because that's going straight on my wall. So I was able to actually obtain a copy, which is really cool. But the thing is like, you're right, it's so important for us to take the time out for each other. We supported each other back then. We support each other now. Like, we'll support each other, to the day we die. Which is that extremely, a special bond that a lot of people really don't get. And we probably wouldn't have it if we didn't go through the experiences that we did. So pretty cool stuff.
Exactly. And in all that, you talked about a lot of really important things, the connection, and you glided over First Sergeant's Hill as if it was like a piece of cake, but of a beast, of a part of a hill that's right there in the 5th Marine Valley. And
Yeah.
I mean, I've been on that, for many years. We've hiked that mountain, so it's with packs and all, and nuttiness. So every hill around there, you can literally walk in a circle and look down on 5th Marines almost in a lot of different ways. So there's no lack of hiking mountains on in that valley. But I will say, another really cool part, and you keep bringing it up in a lot of ways. You're like, hey, we need to bring other nonprofits on deck to kind of functionality really make a really good thing, because there's some really amazing nonprofits doing some incredible things in directions that they're going, and then the directions don't always align directly with nonprofits of other nonprofits, but it's important that they collaborate and they kind of make a lot of really cool things. Because as a guy what I do, I spend a lot of my time reaching out to a lot of other nonprofits and saying, hey, what are you doing to help our vets? And are our vets really getting the help that they need and the support that they need and the directions that they go? And I hear back from a lot of these guys, and a lot of organizations are doing incredible things. There's some that maybe aren't, but I know you want to link up with a few to kind of bring them in and actually, just like just like Sean Taj's organization, the Big Fish. It's like really incredible thing too. But here we are at Warrior Built. You got the PTSD Foundation on deck. I collaborate with so many, and I really want to highlight them to make them shine, because together it's a really cool thing to help support our veterans. And it's sometimes hard to do that on the individual levels, because these guys, you only have so much time to help out somebody every day, and it's not in your necessarily full on mission to spend your day helping a veteran that's really suffering and dealing with stuff. And I think that leads to a lot of the suicides that we have. As much as we want to help each other out, for me, it's easy because it's what I do all the time. I just constantly reach out and talk to combat vets and push them, get them to Camp Hope if they need it. But I love that you're wanting to link up and talk about that, and talk about why that's going to be important for your organization, man.
Yeah, I think everything, to sum up everything you just said, it's really about a community, right? And so if you go onto, our website, vetsoperate.com, you start reading through things, and you'll notice like there's a comment in there that states that, by supporting these entrepreneurial veterans, basically you'll be helping them actually help local communities around the world. And that's what these nonprofits do, right, for veterans. I mean, when you really get down to it, it's like, even though the world's a big place, but you have so many nonprofits to really help at a granular level, which is pretty amazing. So that's why it's so important to kind of bring us all together. And what we're really excited about is that, all these nonprofits need help, like in business development, building the structure of their nonprofit, and that's where Vets Operate will be able to come in and kind of help them and guide them do it. So Vets Operate is not just about a startup company that, you're trying to become the next, big tech thing, you know what I mean, and take over Google or something. It's also about like, do you want to start a nonprofit? Let's do it. Let us walk you through what we did, and let us walk you through all the mistakes that we made to make sure that you don't do them, right? And you could get to the races a lot quicker and more efficiently. So that's why it's important to bring us all together. And Chief, you've been doing some amazing things over the years. I mean, what's going on with Warrior Built? It's helping so many guys, you know what I mean? Same thing with the PTSD Foundation, the weekly calls that you have, like I've been on those before. There are guys and girls out there that, ladies that really need help. And those calls help. So kudos to you, man.
Thanks a lot, man. Thanks. That's definitely awesome to hear. And I know there is a lot of nonprofits that are, they got a pretty good stance on things for the most part, but it's also very important that they maybe get a fresh set of eyes to say, hey, you know what, let's help you out with this. Let's get you on QuickBooks. Maybe they're not using QuickBooks, or who is their, how's their fundage being managed and stuff of that nature. And not only that, but their programs too, to make sure those things get online. But I know you're coming at it with that business stance too, because you've been dealing with business for so long, and so you got a really cool grasp on that. And it's not something that we as veterans normally kind of thrive on, because managing budgets are a lot different in the military than they are in real life. But managing the budget of your house is definitely similar to a business in some aspects. So you may not think you have the ability, but you do if you just sit down and think about how you're managing your budget. But if you're not managing it right, let's make sure we work on it, and you'll have that ability. Hey, any last words, man? Anything you want to say, put out there? How can someone get a hold of you as well? And we'll go with that.
Sure. So there's two ways. One, you could go onto vetsoperate.com. You could go in there. There's a chat bot. You could actually put in your information. When you put in that information, it goes directly to me. Or you can scroll to the bottom and it says become an operator. Put in your information, it will come to me. That's one way. The other way to do it is our actual startup, which is Innovo. But the website is oneinnovo.com. So ONEINNOVO.com. If you go in there, you scroll to the bottom of that website, there's actually a button that you could click that says, I'm feeling lucky. So you click on that button, you schedule time with me virtually. So if you're feeling lucky, go on the website and click the button.
Outstanding. Hey, thanks a lot. I appreciate you, brother. Hey, I just want to say, something that we talked about, and this is coming up. I'm probably gonna do a series with Jason Brooks because he's got this really cool setup. There's going to be some training involved, probably some really cool things, and so I'm looking at a series for this type of thing so people can be aware and get involved with it. But hey, this is Combat Vet Vision. This is coming to you live from Warrior Built Studios today. Brian Colburn runs sitchradio.com and makes this thing happen. Till next time, strength and honor. We'll talk to you later. Out.